Welcome in, listeners. This is Margin Mavens, a podcast hosted by Steph and Kayla, where we share our thoughts on all things literature. Today's episode is about New Moon by Stephenie Meyer. We're following Bella, who has been with Edward for 6 months, when a well-meaning birthday party turns into disaster. The rest of the book deals with this aftermath. And yes, we mean the rest of the book. The content for today's talk contains talk of suicide and declining mental health, so please take care of yourselves and only listen if such topics do not make you uncomfortable. Now make sure to grab a snack and a drink unless you're driving, then remember 10 and 2, and come hang out with us while we dive in.
I want to fight every person who voted for Twilight.
I am so happy to say that I still don't like this book. At least I'm consistent.
You know,
listen, that is saying...
Here's the thing, though.
Something, because I rated it a little higher than Twilight.
That is saying something.
But this book...
That Jacob is better. That's what that's saying.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, Jacob gave me such an ick, this book.
Wow. Oh. The only person giving me icks is Edward. Like, what do you mean you just decide to fucking leave the, quote, love of your life? What manipulative bullshit is that? Or Charlie. Team Charlie. You know what? Team Charlie.
I don't know if it's because I read Midnight Sun. And so I get a lot more of his thought process because I read it and I can understand it a little bit more. Right? Jacob had me. Right? When she goes through starting at the jump. Hold on.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so there gets a point. This entire book is a love letter to Romeo and Juliet.
Correct.
Right? Which, as a Shakespeare girly who understands how problematic Romeo and Juliet is, it's one of my least favorite Shakespeare plays because I have taste.
Hamlet's right there. Why? A Midsummer's Night
is right there. Anyways. The fact that early on in the book, they're watching Romeo and Juliet in class.
Yeah.
And Edward goes through this whole thing about how...
The foreshadowing. Just slap us in the face.
Yeah, the foreshadowing is so great. I
like that I caught it this time.
Yeah. The foreshadowing is great because Edward's like, it's crazy to me that, you humans have it so easy, you could just off yourselves. And he goes through this whole explanation of, the Volturi again and stuff like that, which are things that we got in the first book, but I understand why he's repeating it now, because it's the foreshadowing to what happens later on when he believes that Bella is dead. Okay. Then we have a really interesting conversation with Carlisle later on, where he's explaining that he is incredibly religious.
Yes.
Because his father was a pastor or a
priest,
parishioner.
Well, not a priest.
One of the P's. Yeah. And Carlisle didn't like his viewpoint because it was very dark and dastardly and very everybody gets punished and that's what everything leads up to. And so Carlisle, even being a vampire, is I have to believe that there is still hope for us, that there is still something after. Stuff like that. There's a lot of religious symbolism, I think, throughout the series as a whole, but specifically New Moon, because it touches on a lot of the ideas of death and the soul, and was really interesting. Probably one of the major things that kept me, some of the things that really kept me interested throughout the book. Then the scene. So it's Bella's birthday, and the Cullens all decide that they're going to have a party for Bella. And just like in the movies, right? Because that's one of the things I think we can objectively say is that most, if not everybody, has seen Twilight at some point. They've been exposed to it at some point. And Bella gets a paper cut, which, first off, I've never seen a paper cut bleed like this. Like, she says she gets a paper cut. In the movie, it's like a giant drop of blood hits the carpet. And here, it's enough blood that it drips. And I'm like, I've never seen a paper cut do that. I've seen a cut do that. You know? But she's like, oh, it's a paper cut. And then phew, she's bleeding like she's anemic, which she might be. Maybe that's the whole issue with
That
this.
could be a problem. Get Bella some iron, please.
Get Bella some iron. And Jasper loses his mind, which I don't blame him. Never blamed him. No. Edward loses his mind. He ends up very quickly like breaking off from Bella because he starts going into this like
he once again makes decisions for the two of them without consulting her. Yes.
And he immediately is making these decisions and stuff, which I think like one of the most annoying parts of the series as a whole is both quote unquote love interests do this.
Yes.
And I think that really shows the kind of Mormonism behind it. The idea like Edward makes all of these decisions for Bella, and he only really gets better towards like the end of Eclipse, and it's kind of shows its head again in Breaking Dawn. Obviously, you haven't read Breaking Dawn in its entirety, but it shows its head again in Breaking Dawn a little bit. But he does eventually get better. I know that I don't enjoy Jacob as a character, right? I enjoy him a lot more before he knows that he is a werewolf or a shapeshifter.
He's just a 16-year-old kid having fun, having a good time.
He's just a 16-year-old kid who is building bikes with this girl that he likes, and he's super sweet to her. And he, by the end of it, gets very like sure, like he's like, this is a done deal. Whatever you and I have, I can wait for you, stuff like that. And I'm almost rooting for him, right? But in the moment that he becomes that shifter, because I don't think they ever say werewolves, they just say that they're wolves. The moment that he gets his abilities and he gets kind of the full history of everything, he immediately falls into line with Edward in terms of making decisions for Bella. We start getting a lot more.
No, not really. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because like he makes it a point. He tries to follow his alpha's lead, right? Sam has made him make an oath, essentially, that he cannot talk about this with anyone. And he gets around it by telling Bella, hey, I've talked to you about this. You know what's going on. I need you to remember. And then once she remembers and she brings it up to him, he's able to, like, he bucks what the wolves want because he wants Bella in his life.
Yeah. I have no doubt that he wants Bella in his life. The problem becomes once Bella starts getting the full picture and she wants to have some sort of semblance of control or understanding of the situation, right? He goes and does the exact same thing that Edward does of like silly little human. He starts saying words like honey to her a lot more often. And I know it's my beef with the word honey. I think it's your
beef with the word honey.
I think it's a bad term to use willy-nilly. But he immediately is like, we have to protect you. You don't know what you're talking about with these vampires. They're bad. And, you know, all of these things. Right. And it's frustrating because both sides do it. Neither one of them fully just trust Bella to know the person that she's vouching for. And so it annoys the crap out of me that both of them do it. And so I'm really rooting for Jacob, right? Like,
yeah.
Halfway through New Moon, I'm like, and I've always argued this, I might be Team Edward, but I fully understand that if Edward never came back, Bella could have been happy with Jacob.
Yes.
Would have been a lot. And like her way of describing it is also really sad because she's very aware, like, I might not be able to have my full heart, but I could be happy with him. He's my best friend. He'll be happy. Stuff like that. But she also has moments where she says like she wishes that he was his blood brother, her blood-born brother.
Right, because it would be easier for her to have a claim on him.
Yeah.
Without having to make a commitment.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a lot of things. And
it's
like,
really weird. It's really funky.
And there's the foreshadowing to what we know happens in Breaking Dawn in terms of like this pull to him and why she feels so drawn to him. And and all of
I
these
hate it.
things, right?
I
I'm
hate it.
not gonna talk about Breaking Dawn yet because
No.
I've got thoughts and feelings, and you guys have to wait because I promise it's worth it. Because
It's gonna be my first full read through. Y'all
I've
need
been
to
holding
wait.
on to these. I've been holding on to these thoughts about ravioli forever. Okay.
It's gonna be a 2-hour episode. Be prepared.
So Edward dips, and Bella goes through.
In like a horrible way, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay? Like absolutely the fucking worst way.
Chose the worst way to do it.
I wanna fight. I wanna fight Edward.
And
I
so
do.
he
I don't blame
dips.
Jacob for wanting to.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it. He dips and Bella starts kind of living like a zombie to the point that Charlie loses his mind, which
Yeah, poor Charlie, Team
poor
Charlie.
Charlie. I get it.
As a parent, I get it. I get it more now than I did when I first read
Yeah.
this book.
As an older sister, I get it because
Yeah.
he's very much like, dude,
What
like
can I
you're
do?
living, but you're not
You're not alive. Like
you're
you're just
not
going
alive.
through the
You're just walking
motions.
around.
Right.
And she goes and she makes an effort and she tries to go and she starts hanging out with Jess again,
Mhm.
which never liked Jess. Nothing about her is good.
Jessica is a terrible friend.
Yeah.
I make a note
Angela
of that in
all the
Twilight.
way.
Angela all the way. Angela just the
all
fact
the
that Angela was like, are you better? Like, are you okay? Like, and I'm glad you're back. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, Angela, thank you
Yeah.
for understanding that.
Whereas
Like,
Jess is very much like she's met with hostility and animosity of like, oh, now you're talking to me.
yeah.
And then Bella does a series of cries for help. She sees these random men in a bar and she decides that she wants to go and talk to them because she hears Edward's voice. Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the theme throughout the book is that if she finds adrenaline mixed with fear, she hears Edward's voice and therefore she seeks these things.
Which, by the way, don't remember the timeline of when this was written and when the Vampire Diaries came out, but like that, the similarity between that and when Elena decided to go ahead and do destructive behavior so that she can see and hear Damon.
See, I don't think because that would have happened like season 4.
Know.
Like season 4.
No, season 4 was high school 5. I think it was 5 or 6.
So this book would have come out before then. But so she's doing these cries for help, right? Which one thing that is never touched upon, at least so far, is why does Bella get the almost like premonition level dreams that she gets, right? Because her dreams are not just manifestations of her nightmares as they're kind of shown in the movie, right? Like she is given like answers to things that are going on in her life.
Does it relate to ravioli?
Does it relate to ravioli? Maybe. Does it? Because we know later on, Bella gets the ability to be a shield. And we know that ravioli has the ability to show memories, but she wouldn't have those memories. And she has to like touch someone.
Why am I overthinking this? I'm overthinking this. Why am I overthinking this?
But so that's one thing that really bugs me because that's something that like, I mean, like the Volturi catch on to it. So we meet the Volturi and we've got Arrow and we've got, you know, his squad of bullies.
Jane,
and we've got Marcus, who's super interesting because he just wants to be dead and no one's letting him be dead.
Yeah.
And all of these things, but he immediately locks on and he's like, if Bella can be impervious to all of our tricks and shenanigans, right? She's going to make a really interesting vampire. Kind of moving back and forth because this book is a doozy while also being super long.
Yeah. Unnecessarily so. Stephenie Meyer, what the fuck?
Yeah, this was a lot. Like, there were points where just not a lot was happening. You've got this reoccurring thing with Mike, which, like, poor dude just needs to let it go.
It just... Okay.
He just needs to let it go.
He is the definition, right, of what men consider friend zoned. And it's like, no, you know she's not interested in you.
Yeah, she has told you
she's
repeatedly.
Established this, and
she's
you
pushed you towards
to
other
listen.
people. Yeah.
Yes, she has literally put you in another relationship and you still want her attention, despite the fact that she's made it clear she's not interested. Read the room.
And so
Fuck
Mike
Mike too.
exists. We kind of get like the character of Jessica gets kind of morphed in also with Lauren, I think, in the movies, because she's a lot meaner
Mm-hmm.
in
Fuck
the
Lauren too.
books. But like Lauren sucks. And she sucks just out of pure, I think, jealousy. Like there's no other
Yeah.
reason. We never see her have any sort of interactions with Bella. She's just
She's
a
just
hater.
jealous that Bella comes in and is
Yeah.
like, ooh, she's the new girl. Ooh, she's getting
Yeah.
hit on. Ooh, she got the Cullens attention. Ooh.
Yeah. And it like 6 months later, no one's over it. The
Mhm.
whole thing. And then it becomes
Yeah.
like 10 months later or something, because Bella goes through her like depression and it's like months get past and whatever.
I forgot, by the way, that some of the months were just fucking
Months.
blank. Just they were just the chapter
Oh, and
title month.
I think as a child, I didn't understand. And I think even as a teenager, I was like, this is really irritating that she goes through this like depression for so long, right? Over this boy. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't invalidating the depression aspect of it, but it was the cause for it that really
Yes.
really
We were
bugs
more
me.
focused on the
Yeah.
cause than
Yeah.
the actual fact that she really needed help and nobody was really
Yeah.
getting her the help that she needed.
And so she gets closer and closer to Jacob. We kind of find out that there's a like gang, as he calls it, in La Push, and he's like, man, these guys suck. Like they just look at me and yada yada yada. Obviously we find out it's the wolves. We meet Sam. We meet his fiance, Emily,
Yeah.
I believe her name is.
Yes.
She's super sweet. I love how Bella comes to fit in and she kind of recognizes
Yes.
that she's still in danger there, right? Like
Yes.
that's one thing that I think like the wolves mention, but
They call
they
it out. But they
ca-
accept that she's there. Like they're like,
yeah,
okay, like you're in danger. As long as you know you're in
like
danger
you're
here,
here.
like you can chill.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But I do think like both sides, vampires and the wolves, have this like superiority complex when like at the end of the day, for very different reasons, I think that they're both like a danger to Bella. But one is kind of more acceptable. Like I'd rather deal with the danger of like if I piss you off too much, you're gonna shift. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of cool. I could handle that because it's something I can control. You know, like we'll work on our communication. You'll work on your
Mm-hmm.
patience, like stuff like
Anyways,
that.
say werewolves make better boyfriends.
I do like both a lot.
Oh,
I
listen, don't
do.
get me wrong. I will always have a soft spot in my heart for vampires. Like I grew up
Yeah.
on Buffy.
Lestat, yeah.
I grew up
Yeah.
on Lestat. Like between Lestat and Angel and Spike, like bet. Also, R.I.P. Michelle Trachtenberg. Thank
Ooh,
you for
yeah.
my childhood memories. But like, there's something
Yeah.
about the werewolves
We
that
could
I
probably do
just,
like a whole episode really diving into like
especially because
that.
there hasn't been that much media on on werewolves. Like,
I really like Teen Wolf. MTV classic.
yeah, I mean,
Before
Teen Wolf is,
MTV wasn't just
yeah,
reality shows.
and I mean, we had Oz on Buffy. I
Yeah.
think yes.
We had True Blood that's got
Oh,
that guy.
snack of a man, snack of a nerdy man who plays D&D. Yes.
They even come in TVD.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So
But they're kind of sad in TV.
yeah,
Like,
they're
Vampire Diaries is just like pathetically sad.
yeah, because
They
it's
could have
very
been
much like
cooler,
vampires are better, you know?
but also like Klaus. So I'm not
Yeah.
mad about it.
Yeah. But as the course of the book goes on and stuff, Jacob is incredibly patient with Bella, which I like. But Jacob also, it all goes back to like, I really need these men stop making decisions for Bella, right?
Right.
We get it a lot from Jacob in this one, obviously,
But
because he spends a majority of the book
yes.
with her.
Also, Jacob is a 16-year-old
Yeah.
inexperienced, immature.
Yeah. Because
boy.
he makes a lot of decisions that are real funky.
Mhm.
Right? Like he makes this promise to Bella to not hurt her. but then like actively avoids her upon finding things out. And
He
yeah,
apologized.
he does apologize. He admits to it. He holds accountability. And then like it gets to the point where Harry Clearwater dies. And so Charlie is off dealing with that and at the funeral and stuff. And a call comes into the house and Jacob answers it and he says, like, oh, Charlie's at the funeral. You know, like,
Right.
once again, 16-year-old kid.
No,
Also,
I'm not gonna lie.
all
Jacob knew what he was doing.
yeah,
He
I'm
knew
like
what he was doing.
16-year-old kid. I didn't mean that he didn't know what he was doing. I just meant like he didn't know how
He
long-term
could have,
messed up that would have been. You
yeah, like
know?
he could have phrased it
Yeah.
in a different
He
way.
knew what he was doing. Um and so basically he leads Edward to believe that Bella is dead.
But also, like, here is what pisses me off about Edward, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you hear Jacob on the other line, your first thought should be, why aren't you also at the funeral? Right?
True.
Like, why are you answering the phone right now?
I never thought about that.
Like, at this point, Edward was just looking for a reason. He's just
I
looking
think
for a reason.
I think I think Edward it's so frustrating because it's very clear that Edward is always going to be that end game for Bella because even the way that like the situations are described are vastly different. Like Bella's like, I could be with Jacob and we could be happy, but it's almost as if she's like, I'm doing this so I can keep Jacob around. Like I need Jacob in my life, and so I'm going to make this decision, but it's not made out of like romantic love, right?
Right.
Which these are pairings that happen in everyday life. There are people that live platonically as soulmates
Yeah.
forever. So there's no shame in that game, right? But
No.
it's kind of Bella knowing that it would not be the same for Jacob. Like Jacob would be with Bella because he's in love with her and wants to be
Right.
with her and wants to have that life with her. She just doesn't want to be alone and likes the way Jacob makes her feel safe.
Right.
Which, not judging her, she's been through a lot. It's cool. And if we're believing the lore of the world, she's being pulled towards Jacob because ravioli is baking in her oven. I think Edward. So we go back into this idea of like the foreshadowing between Edward and like Romeo and
Helen
all
and
of that,
Juliet. Yeah.
right? And I like that Edward has that moment of like the odds are constantly being stacked against us. I will never talk badly of Romeo again. Because he's like, man, things could not have aligned worse, you know, from Alice seeing you jump off the cliff because you're recreationally cliff diving and we think you're trying to kill yourself.
Right.
To Rosalie getting involved. And like Rosalie is cool in this book because she has that moment of like, I'm
Oops,
really sorry.
I messed up. Yeah.
And
But
when they
also,
go,
like, I can't remember because I probably blocked it out, but was there ever a conversation between Edward and Bella, or perhaps the rest of the Cullens and Bella, about how like y'all left and that is how like and y'all thought I was offing myself and that's when you decide to come back? Like,
no, I think she kind of had a conversation with Edward about it because she tells him like, because she's basically already accepted the idea that once they're back home and she's like settled back in, he's leaving because she
right,
still believes that he doesn't love her and all of that. And so she tells him
right,
like, if you are gone, you cannot carry the blame or the guilt for anything that happens to me. Like if I got hit
right,
by a bus tomorrow, that cannot be, you know, something that you take or whatever. And then that's when he has that moment of like, do you think I did all of this because of guilt?
right.
I 100% think that the Cullens did not come back out of loyalty to Edward.
No, they came back for Bella.
Yeah, no, but I mean like when like with everything that she was going through and stuff, right? Like 100% Alice didn't reach out or have
Nobody
anything
did.
to do with her
Why?
because of Edward. Edward did not want that. Edward fully believed that he was doing what was right. And I think after like a century of all living together and Edward being the one that like mind reads and stuff like that, I think they're just kind of used to him knowing what's best. And then Carlisle probably agreeing. It's the same way, like, it's even emphasized in this one that, like, they believe Alice to a fault. Like, they do not,
Yeah, no, I know.
they
That
don't,
makes sense.
like, yeah, like, they don't take into consideration, like, oh, her
Sometimes
stuff can
she's wrong.
change and whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing for Edward, where he's been so, like, they're just used to him knowing everything that's going on all the time, that when he says something or says, like, this is what's best, right? I think they just blindly follow it as long as Carlisle also agrees.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
It's not
Grow
great.
up.
And so Rosalie is really cool in this one because she kind of grows and owns up to like her play in it, and she also owns up to the fact that like Bella is important now.
Yeah.
And so towards the end of the book, when Bella goes and is like, we're gonna have a diplomatic vote on what happens, because it's, and I like Bella in the books because
I like the way that she did that.
she really like
She really advocates for herself.
she advocates for herself. She's not afraid to argue with Edward. Like, it might make her feel like she's a nervous wreck the entire time and she's scared of all the outcomes, but she isn't afraid to be like, we're going to do this. Screw what you're saying.
Right.
And she advocates for herself, and she's like, this is bigger than us. You know, now the Volturi is involved. If I am still human when they come to check in, like, it is not just you that gets in trouble.
Right.
And
it's all of the Cullens. And it again shows that Edward doesn't think about that because he's only he's so single freaking minded focused on keeping Bella pure and her soul intact.
Yeah. The religious undertones of this are really crazy. And so we go in and she's like, we're pulling it to a vote, right? Rosalie votes no, that Bella should not become a vampire. And Bella immediately is like, okay, that kind of hurt my feelings, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And Rosalie makes a point of saying, and she makes a point of saying, like, has nothing to do with not liking you as my sister. It is everything to do with, I did not choose this for myself and I would not choose this for somebody else.
Right.
And all of them. And I love the scenes. I think like the actor that plays Carlisle does such a good job with him.
That's why people are Team Carlisle from the movies. Yeah.
Because like in this scene, right, you really see him shine when it comes to this vote, because Bella even recognizes, like, even if it's a tie, whichever side Carlisle votes is ultimately going to be that winner.
Right.
And so he knows that Edward knows the moment he makes his decision. And and I like that in the movie, he's very much like, I will not lose my son. And I have a soft spot for Carlisle and Esme. Because even Esme in the book is like, you will not do that to me again. And Edward's like, okay, sorry, Mom.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's cute. And so the end of New Moon happens where Bella's like, all right, Alice, you gonna change me into a vampire? And Alice is like, wait. I don't know if I won't kill you. Like, hold on. And she turns to Carlisle, and Carlisle is like, you do not have to worry about my self-control. You would be perfectly safe. And then Edward, being Edward, is like, okay, but if I do it, and Bella's like, I would like that, then you have to marry me.
Yeah.
And I love Bella's reaction to this because it's so quintessential, like, 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm willing to devote the rest of my life to you, but why does that mean we have to get married?
Yeah, but not in a marriage. That's
a big word. That's an adult word, you know? And I like Edward's reaction because he's like, you're willing to be a vampire.
Yeah.
Something that you cannot change.
But you don't want to marry me. And I'm like, you know what? Honestly, bro, can you stick around for at least a year before you ask her to there was one little itty bitty paper cut, and all of a sudden,
that's what I'm saying.
You're dipping. Like, you can't handle it. But they've been together 6 months, so what do they do when she's on her period? Make it make sense.
I don't know, man. Read some fan fiction. They have ideas.
I'm about to. Somebody needs to make this make sense for me.
And so she decides that she's going to marry him and stuff. And so that really pulls us into Eclipse, because they make a point of saying, like, we're going to get to the end of the year, right? We're going to graduate, do all that, whatever. And then we'll figure out the plan. The underlying plot is that Victoria is running
Victoria's
amok.
still out there. Yeah.
She's running amok.
Amok. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, you're good. We love Macbeth. And she's running amok. She is after Bella because she wants to do like an eye for an eye.
Yeah, mate for a mate.
And I like Edward because he's like, I'll never leave you again. And she's like, okay, but you can't promise that and also say you're hunting down Victoria. And I like that he's bad at his job. Like, he's like,
Terrible.
I tracked her, but I ended up in Brazil.
Horrible. Absolutely horrendous.
And I like it because it's one of the first times that we see that he's like...
He's not perfect.
He's not perfect. And even Bella's like, oh, you're bad at this.
Yeah.
And so it kind of leaves things out in the open in terms of the Victoria situation. Jacob and Bella have moments where Bella's like, you said you would be my friend forever. And he was like, I can't make that promise now that they're back. And it becomes this whole bigger thing. He has a really sweet moment where he says, like, he mouths, like, miss you at her and stuff. Like, they're very sweet best friends.
Like, I'm reading this book and I'm like, does Stephenie Meyer know that Bella and Jacob aren't supposed to be together? Because the way that she's writing it.
Yeah, it's very, and it's all because of ravioli.
I hate
it all leads back.
I'm gonna hate Breaking Dawn. I'm gonna hate every second of it. I'm going to curse every single person that encouraged this nonsense.
I'm excited to read Eclipse. It's my favorite of the series, movie-wise and book-wise. It was my favorite. Yeah, I'm
still Team Jacob.
I will
probably die Team Jacob.
I understand.
That's the friends to lovers shit that you want to read. Like,
I think, like, where is it? There's just points. There's points where, like, there's a point where Edward says, like, because when he broke up with Bella, he's like, it frustrated me and hurt me so badly of how easily you believed me. He was like, of all the times that I've told you I loved you, it took less than 2 minutes to convince you that I didn't. And so, like, that was a really fun scene. I also like the scene right after that where he kind of has this moment of realization that she could just not want him, right? Because he says, yesterday when I would touch you, you were so hesitant, so careful, and yet still the same. I need to know why. Is it because I'm too late? Because I've hurt you too much? Because you have moved on as I meant for you to? That would be quite fair, right? And then he ends it by saying, like, just tell me whether or not you can still love me after everything I've done to you, right? Jacob was always fighting a losing battle. Because Jacob does not get those monologues. And it's hard for me to not bet on the winning team. Because even I remember reading this before reading Eclipse and before seeing the movies and stuff like that and being like, oh my God, like, really is just Team Edward, and Team Jacob is just really hopeful thinking because of the monologues and the kind of intensity of everything. Right? But I think that also just comes with the fact that
he left.
He thought it was for the best. I'm not forgiving him or making excuses for him.
I know, it just aggravates me.
I can be Team Edward and still admit that he really sucks in the beginning. Right? Like,
beginning, the whole series, tomato.
I get it. I think, like, no, I really like him movie-wise. I really like him in part 2 of Breaking Dawn. Part 1, not so much, because he's very, like...
Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very not great in part 1 of Breaking Dawn. In Eclipse, there's, like, a couple moments that I don't really like him, because Bella's trying to balance friendship with Jacob, relationship with Edward, stuff like that. But I won't get into that now, because we'll have a whole other episode.
No, we'll have conversations about that, I'm sure.
We'll have conversations about
that.
Thoughts. But if that is all,
I think so.
thank you guys for listening and hanging out with us today. If you're not already, consider following us on Instagram at Margin Mavens. For those interested in the camera on version of our episodes, you can get those by subscribing to our Patreon. And as always, remember that you are loved and that we appreciate you.